Pizzadudemanguy. With the rumors of DLC characters and Nintendo Directs flying around, I wanted to quickly get out some of my thoughts on my own personal most wanted choices. I think some people got the wrong idea about my 4 Smash series where I'm making movesets entirely for fun, although they are about characters I like. That said, I will be using a couple restrictions in this top 10. One, just like my previous top 10s, I will not be including any characters that already have a role in Super Smash Bros., including characters that are spirits. We don't know for certain that these types of characters can't become playable, but we do know that the DLC characters are said to be new to Smash Bros., and that the currently known DLC characters, Piranha Plant and Joker, do not have spirits as of now, so I'm granting that assumption this time. This of course means my list is going to pretty much consist of new third-party characters, since nearly every major Nintendo character under the sun is a spirit. Second, this is my own personal top 10, so there are some characters that I believe have a very good chance that I won't be including because they don't interest me, and characters I am interested in that I won't be including because I've never played their games. Even with these restrictions, there are still plenty of characters I didn't include that I'd enjoy seeing, so let's finally get to it. Number 10. Monster Hunter. To be honest, I myself have only played a small bit of Capcom's Monster Hunter games, but I've seen my friends play them plenty of times, and what I like is how it's become an established, beloved series that's closely tied to Nintendo. Those of you who have watched my videos for a long time already know those are my favorite types of third-party characters. Ones that are either strongly associated with Nintendo, or ones who come from a series with a rich Nintendo history, and I think Monster Hunter fits that. It's always fun to include characters that have a wide range of abilities, like the many choices you have for a Monster Hunter's weapons and classes, to make for a truly unique character, and I think they made the concept work already in Marvel vs. Capcom. I'm not sure if the Rathalos and Monster Hunter music already being in Smash Ultimate makes this more or less likely, but either way, I'd be into it. Number 9. Leon S. Kennedy. Resident Evil is easily Capcom's biggest series to not be included in Smash Bros. Yet, and of all their protagonists, Leon is my top pick as a playable character. For one, when I think of Resident Evil on Nintendo, the first thing that comes to mind is Resident Evil 4, which stars Leon Kennedy and was on the GameCube. And even then, I think the first Resident Evil game on a Nintendo console was Resident Evil 2, which also stars Leon. Secondly, Leon is one of the Resident Evil protagonists I most associate melee combat with, so I think he's a good fit for Smash Bros.' environment. Maybe his moveset can be fleshed out with heavy weapons and zombie attacks like Jill in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and maybe some people would argue Jill or Chris are more representative of Resident Evil as a whole, but as far as Super Smash Bros. Go, I think Leon S. Kennedy is a great choice. Number 8. Chrono from Chrono Trigger. Alright, before I get any dumb too many swords or anime sword boy comments, sword styles differ wildly from training to type of sword. What if I said Smash Bros. Had too many fist fighters? My favorite fighting game series besides Smash by far is Soul Calibur, and almost every character in that game uses swords, but they all have unique movesets. And anime is a very broad label for a style of art and should have no bearing on actual character selection whatsoever. Chrono himself is a katana wielder, a sword style we somehow have yet to see in Super Smash Bros. And that I've wanted for a long time. Additionally, he has light magic, unique sword techniques, and time travel abilities to make a fantastic moveset out of. It's so funny to me. When we discussed Super Nintendo era RPG characters, it's Geno that gets brought up, but to me, Chrono is the dream. Chrono Trigger was a massive hit that's still ranked as one of the greatest RPGs of all time to this day for the scope and scale of the adventure and the motives and actions of its cast of characters. They really didn't skimp out on this game. Every party member has a team attack with every other party member, and then every set of 3 characters have unique team attacks. This adds even more fuel to what you could do with Chrono's moveset. Chrono Trigger was a legendary Nintendo game, and I would love to see it showcased in Smash. Number 7. Lloyd Irving from Tales of Symphonia. Namco's Tales of series is somewhat niche in the West, though its popularity has been growing, but in Japan, some consider it the 3rd most successful RPG franchise of all time, behind Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, and the series has over 15 titles to its name to prove that point with. Although the first Tails game was released on the Super Famicom, I still think Lloyd makes the most sense for Super Smash Bros. For a couple reasons. First, Tales of Symphonia was kind of the re-emergence of the Tales series on Nintendo. Even though the first game, Tales of Fantasia, was on a Nintendo console, all of the following Tales games released exclusively on PlayStation until Symphonia came out on GameCube. Second, Tales of Symphonia was the first entry to really be successful on the international scale, so Lloyd is a lot more recognizable to most people as representative of the Tales series as a whole. All Tales protagonists pretty much come with pre-built Smash Bros. Movesets. They have so many attacks and special moves, called arts, I actually find it more difficult to pick and choose which move should go where than trying to come up with enough moves. Lloyd is particularly interesting as well with his dual sword fighting style, which we still have yet to see in Smash Bros. On top of all that, we haven't seen Namco gone beyond Pac-Man, while every other third-party company has been getting newcomers, so I think including someone from the Tales series is definitely one path we could see. Yeah, Lloyd Irving looks pretty much like a perfect character addition, but there's actually one I like even more. Number 6. Yuri Lowell from Tales of Vesperia. Tales of Vesperia is considered one of, if not the most successful and best entry from the Tales of series. Like Chrono Trigger, the sheer scope of the game is absolutely phenomenal. It's massive. And of course, it's centered around the stories of many interesting and well-developed characters, especially its main protagonist, Yuri Lowell. Yuri is almost unquestionably the best Tales hero. He has a very clear motive and personality, and his actions throughout the game fit his own struggles, but are not always the right path, so he has room to grow as a character within the game. He's actually been banned from official Tales of character popularity polls because he was blowing the competition out of the water. His fighting style is a somewhat flashy, cobbled-together sword moveset that incorporates kicks and other melee strikes. It's something I can't really attribute to any other character. And of course, between that and his arts, he has a lot to build a Smash Bros. Moveset out of. I think it'd be fun too if he came with Rapide, his dog companion, as a constant striker character to aid in Yuri's combos. Tales of Vesperia is re-releasing very soon on Nintendo Switch, and prior to that, Yuri was playable in every Project Cross Zone game on Nintendo 3DS, so I actually think he has a chance of happening. It's kinda like Cloud for Final Fantasy or Joker for Persona. Even if it doesn't happen, definitely check out Tales of Vesperia. It's amazing. Number 5. Heihachi Mishima from Tekken. If we really do get a second Namco character, this is the only path that I think makes even more sense than including Tales characters. Including a character from the best-selling fighting game franchise of all time, Tekken. I mean, I consider Super Smash Bros. One of the greatest fighting game series ever made, and the only other fighting game series to have more raw financial success have been Street Fighter and Tekken. We already have Ryu and Ken from Street Fighter, so wouldn't it be great to see someone from Tekken? To see Super Smash Bros. Encompass all of the super successful fighting games? I think that'd be really cool. Of course, we're kind of ignoring my personal favorite Soul Calibur as well as Mortal Kombat, which isn't too far behind, but, well, whatever. Anyways, I think Heihachi makes the most sense as the character to represent Tekken, which might be a little funny since he's pretty much never the main hero. If anything, he's the series' most consistent villain. I guess that's not super uncommon. I mean, Nightmare is pretty much the poster child for Soul Calibur, and Mortal Kombat has Scorpion. Heihachi is the icon of Tekken and the go-to character for every Tekken crossover, including Smash 4. There shouldn't be any question of his abilities. He already comes from a fighting game franchise, and his fighting style is an original creation straight from the Tekken games, like Ryu's fighting style to Street Fighter. I think Heihachi would make a perfect rival for Ryu in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Number 4. Phoenix Wright from the Ace Attorney series. What? Above Tekken and all those big RPG characters? Well, yeah. I already mentioned that my favorite third-party characters to include are ones with rich histories tied to Nintendo, and the Ace Attorney series has built itself up into a notable franchise with lots of entries, and they're all almost Nintendo exclusive. But I won't lie, The real reason Phoenix Wright is so high on my list is because I myself have a strong personal connection to the series. Ace Attorney is one of my favorite video game franchises of all time, and the games represent and remind me of some of my greatest friendships. The main character, Phoenix Wright, was previously playable in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, so he's already been in a fighting environment, and I think you can borrow a lot of elements from that appearance, but there are a lot of references throughout the series that I think would be great to have in a Smash Bros. Moveset. For instance, his up special could be climbing up a stepladder. Trust me, that's a hilarious and very clever Ace Attorney reference. The music alone would make the character choice worth it, though I'd say the same about Undertale and Bravely Default. You have no idea how happy this inclusion would make me. Number 3. Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden. Simon Belmont has been one of my most wanted newcomers for a long time, and I always said that if he ever actually made it into Smash Bros., Ryu Hayabusa would be the next character I advocate for in this place. Well, here we are. I think Hayabusa is the next natural step after Mega Man and Simon Belmont, a historical, third-party adventuring hero with a beloved series of games spanning back to the NES era. The original Ninja Gaiden trilogy was a staple of the NES and remembered for its challenging gameplay and groundbreaking use of cutscenes at the time, and the series has continued. Sure, it's had its high and low points, but so have Mega Man and Castlevania. Hayabusa has a ton to work with for his moveset as well. He's primarily a katana wielder, which we still don't have, but also has plenty of special abilities in the classic games, not to mention the wide array of attacks in the more modern games. If that weren't enough, he's been a regular contender in the Dead or Alive fighting game series. You have so much to pull from. I myself am hopeful that they'd incorporate his signature wall climb ability. He's also the first character on my list to be from a currently uninvolved company, Koei Tecmo, who have been doing a lot of collaboration with Nintendo recently. I think Hayabusa would be an incredible addition. Number 2. Erdrick from Dragon Quest III. Like the Tales series, Dragon Quest is much more niche in the West than it is in Japan, but let me try to paint a picture of the scope of this franchise. During the early home console days of Nintendo, there were two main standout Japanese companies producing RPGs. Squaresoft, who had been struggling to take off until their big hit Final Fantasy, and Enix, who, prior to Final Fantasy, released Dragon Quest. Often considered the mother or even the first of all console RPGs, Dragon Quest revolutionized, modernized, and laid down the foundation for all video game RPGs. It is the original JRPG. Not only was it highly influential, it was very popular in Japan. The first two Dragon Quest games were building up to the third, the story of the hero of legend Lodo, known as Erdrick in the West. The game was so hyped up, hundreds of children got in trouble for skipping school to buy the game as soon as it was released. There's a myth that Japan passed a law to force Enix to release all future Dragon Quest games on weekends to avoid this situation, and whether or not that law passed or if it was real, future Dragon Quest titles did release on Saturdays from then on. The legacy of this series has continued, with the 11th main installment having released recently, not to mention many spin-off games. It truly is considered one of the most recognizable and successful video game franchises in Japan. Having Dragon Quest content in Smash Bros. Should simply be a given. The series is huge, historical, beloved, and strongly tied with Nintendo. The one snag that people love to bring up is that, for one reason or another, it's never taken off nearly as strongly in the West. A lot of people like Dragon Quest III, but Dragon Quest VIII was the first title to truly gain a large following at the international level, and yeah, it's really good. I very much want to see the series succeed, and so far, Dragon Quest XI has looked promising. It's doing pretty well, and I think it'll do even better once it releases on Nintendo Switch. Even so, I think the best character to represent the series as a whole is Erdrick. It's very rare for any main Dragon Quest hero to have an implied name. They're usually meant to be insert-yourself type characters, so names are usually generic or non-existent. However, Dragon Quest III is the story of the legendary hero built up in Dragon Quest I and Dragon Quest II, and in those games, the hero is identified as Erdrick. All Dragon Quest heroes portray similar abilities and often appearances, but Erdrick's arms and armor specifically is an icon of the series. Most titles include Erdrick's equipment as some of the best obtainable in the game. As far as moveset goes, Erdrick is primarily a sword and shield user, but equips boomerangs as a secondary weapon and is also proficient as a spellcaster. The hero's spells include lightning, fire, ice, teleportation, sleep spells, magical protection. It's actually a very big variety. You might say it's some kind of blend of Link and Robin, but I think it's plenty to be called its own thing. Some people tell me that Slime would be better since it's the recognizable character of Dragon Quest, but I don't want to play as a slime. I want to play as the hero. I want to fight in Smash Bros. Doing the things I can do in Dragon Quest. Other people tell me it's unlikely given the issues we've already seen with Cloud in Smash Bros., namely a lack of music and overall presence. But we've already seen a lot more crossover between Nintendo and Dragon Quest with things like the Fortune Street games. I think people are way over-exaggerating these issues, and that Erdrick is a prime candidate for Smash Ultimate DLC. Even though there might be other notable characters like Hayabusa, Bomberman, and others, with Erdrick in, it'll really feel like we have every major classic third-party icon. Number 1. Banjo and Kazooie. For me, Banjo and Kazooie are more than just a third-party character choice. They're long-lost Nintendo icons. I grew up during this Nintendo 64 era, and back then, the Bear and Bird were as synonymous with the console to me as Mario and The Legend of Zelda. A lot of advertising used Mario, Link, and Banjo. I remember playing Super Smash Bros. Melee as a kid and just waiting to unlock them, because obviously they had to be there. How could they not be? 2-hit titles and more upcoming, between all the attacks you can do in their games plus different egg ammunitions, transformations, and other special abilities, the moveset practically builds itself. I was so confused when the game told me I had unlocked all the characters. Of course, we know now that things weren't going so smoothly between Nintendo and Rare, and the company was bought by Microsoft, seemingly excluding the pair from ever joining the roster. But now, relations between Nintendo and Microsoft look pretty good. That said, I'm still unsure of the likeliness. If they really do collaborate for Smash Bros., Banjo and Kazooie have some very strong competition, and it seems more of a Smash fan pick than a general audience pick, like Geno. But even more than any of the third-party characters I listed, most of my favorite Smash Bros. Additions are great Nintendo characters, and the only reason I didn't include more is because the ones I would have placed are all in the game in some form. But that's still how I see Banjo and Kazooie, as Nintendo characters, and they're some of my personal most wanted for Smash Ultimate DLC. I feel like they should have always been there. Those are my current, as of early January 2019, choices for Smash Ultimate DLC. Let me know what you think and who some of your personal picks are for Smash Ultimate. Thanks for watching, and see ya at the next video.